All right, welcome everyone. I hope you're all doing amazing, whatever time it is for you right now, whether it's in the middle of the night, afternoon, or morning. Welcome to today's webinar with Julia Furnari. My name is Magdalena. I'm a campus director at University College Dublin in Ireland, and I'm also a Coach Dream at Real Coachtopia scholar. Now, I would like to invite all of you Millennium Fellows who are joining today to please turn on your cameras if you're able to, or if you can. And also feel free to drop in the chat which country you're coming from, which university you're joining from, and also a bit about your project and the SDG that you're working on. And also, if any of you feel comfortable, feel free to raise your hand and introduce yourself on stage. Now, as you're typing about your projects, I can see that Anaya is coming from India. That's amazing. SDG3. We have someone from Nigeria. Oh my God. And the USA. So we already have 3 continents. Someone from the Georgia Institute of Technology. That's amazing. Thank you so much for introducing yourself. Would anybody be comfortable enough to actually raise your hand? Well, even if you're not, that doesn't really matter. Oh my God, that's such a wealth of projects, and we have almost all the SDGs covered today. That's amazing. Now, Valentine, would you go ahead and want to introduce yourself? Valentine, maybe your mic is muted.
Hi everyone. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you so much. My name is Valentine Kwega from the University of Nairobi, located in Kenya. From the Faculty of Law, I'm a law student pursuing my bachelor's degree in law, and I'm very happy to be here. I'm honored to be here. I'll just share a little about my project in less than a minute. So my project deals with SDG number 3 and SDG number 5, but the project majorly majors on gender equality. So we are addressing gender-based violence and mental health awareness, mostly at the university level, because we have observed in Kenya that cases of gender-based violence, and they are so prevalent. People or young people killing each other because of relationship issues, because of the academic pressure in university and all that. So the project comes in to try and equip the society with the knowledge of what violence is, how it can manifest itself, and what are the channels that you can use to actually get help. And so far, the journey has been good. The Millennium Fellows from the University of Nairobi are very supportive, and anytime we need help, they're always there. Thank you so much, and I'm glad to be in this webinar.
Well, thank you so much for talking about your project. It really sounds like you're identified such an important issue in your community. Thank you for introducing yourself. So glad to have you. Now we have Emanuela, who has also raised her hand. Would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes. Thank you so much. Good day, everyone. My name is Emmanuel Akotia. I'm a final year student, law student in Ghana, and I'm so happy to be here. So I'll briefly describe my project. The name of my project is Right to Lead, and it's on the SDG 4 on quality education. The reason I brought this up is because in the Ghanaian education system, writing is structured in a way that it is exams focused. So students are not, especially senior high school students and junior high school students, are usually, given the opportunity to express themselves in words, express their ideas and be able to communicate meaningfully. So my project is to step in to bridge that gap and also to let them know that in as much as you can use writing to express yourself creatively, you can also use writing to advocate for change, and also to ensure that, issues in society are heard and that the right things are done. So yes, that's my project.
That's a wonderful project. Now, as someone who studied art, I so value the value of creative self-expression. So thank you so much for sharing that. Now, due to time constraints, we will move on to introducing the speaker, who is today Julia Furnari, who is the Executive Director of the Tapestry Foundation and Coach Foundation and Tapestry Inc., which is a New York-based house of modern luxury lifestyle brands including Coach, Kate Spade, and Stuart Weitzman. Now, in her role, she leads the company's multi-brand global social impact strategy with a focus on impact investing and the company's private foundations, totaling over 120 million US dollars in philanthropic assets. During her time at Tapestry Inc., Julia has executed philanthropic donations exceeding 200 million US dollars, led the company's worldwide COVID-19 philanthropic response through impactful public-private partnerships with the New York City, and also pioneered the establishment of the 50 million US dollar Tapestry Foundation. Julia is at the forefront of the company's efforts in addressing climate change and fostering equity through philanthropic commitments. She also leads disaster relief efforts on a global scale and oversees the company's employee volunteerism matching gift program. Notably, Julia spearheaded a $3 million US dollar investment to create a first-of-its-kind deforestation and conversion-free tractability program in Brazil's leather supply chain, with a goal to combat deforestation in high-risk areas. In her role leading the Coach Foundation, Julia oversees a philanthropic portfolio in China, Japan, United States, and the United Kingdom, and recently achieved the goal to provide 5,000 scholarships to underrepresented students around the world. Julia joined Tapestry in 2017. Julia, warm welcome to you, and the stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Magdalena, and it is such an honor to be with you all today. I spoke to the MCN class 2 years ago. Last year I had a baby, so it is so nice to be back with you all. And I had a chance to speak at the town hall, and every time I'm with you, I'm so encouraged just by hearing Emanuela and hearing you all talk about your SDGs and your projects that you're working on. This is a collective force for good. You all are changing the world. So thank you for having me. And congratulations on being selected. It is such an accomplishment. Over 60,000 applications, 4,000 of you are selected. I mean, I could not be more proud of this group of young people. So with that, I'll start with a little bit about myself. So I'm Julia. I lead the Tapestry and Coach Foundation for Tapestry Inc. And so you may have heard of Coach handbags or Kate Spade handbags. I lead the 501c3 nonprofits for the brands and our global social impact strategy. You all are well understanding of what social impact is. You're creating social change in your communities, and that's what I do on behalf of Tapestry Inc. And so today, I'm not going to use slides. I actually used slides last time and I felt like we didn't leave enough time for questions. So I'm going to just talk to you, and I encourage you to use the chat to ask questions. No question is off limits. I'm very open and transparent, and my goal is that you come today and you can ask questions about what it looks like to have a career in social impact and hopefully leave with a little bit of guidance for myself. So I joined Tapestry about 8 years ago. I was a coordinator at the time. I had just graduated from graduate school, and before that had a little bit of experience in retail, and I knew I loved fashion, and I knew I loved, doing good. I believed very much so that companies had a responsibility to do good in the world. And so my role is that blend of being in the fashion industry, but also having a responsibility to leave the world a better place. And so over the past 8 years, I've had my hands in many different projects of what it looks like. And today I'm leading our global teams. A day in the life is very different. Every day is change. Every day looks different. I primarily wear 2 hats. And so when you work for a company that has multiple brands, you have to think a bit differently based on the audience that you're supporting. And so in leading the Tapestry social impact strategy, I'm constantly thinking about our shareholders, our investors, our employees. What do I owe them as the leader of our social impact work? And so a lot of that centered around climate change. A lot of that centered around how can we move the industry forward and also be an amazing place to work. So leading matching gifts programs, when our people, our employees donate, we support their passions. We have programs to support them getting paid time off to volunteer. donation, team volunteer events, you name it. It's my job to come up with all of those giving benefits as to why young people, all people should want to work at Tapestry. And then in leading the Coach Foundation, it's very focused on a brand. A brand strategy is very different than an enterprise strategy. And so at Coach, we have Dream It Real. Dream It Real is our promise to support 10,000 young people by 2030 with scholarships. And that's how we partner with MCN as Magdalena is part of our Coachtopia Dream It Real scholarship program. But that being said, it's my job to think about our customers. Why would they want to shop with us? Are we a brand that cares and is investing where we live, work, and where our products are made? And so I'll go through it a little bit more, and I'd like to talk about some of the projects that I'm currently working on. I think it's interesting, but a main takeaway is social impact is complex. It is complex, and you're navigating different issues, different topics based on different regions. As you all know, every community looks very different, and based on the audience that you're serving within the challenge you're trying to solve for. So if you are interested in trying to change the world through business, this is a field for you. It is challenging and it is complex, but every day is quite exciting. So maybe I'll start with Coach and kind of how we got to our social impact program, thinking through what it's like to represent a brand and find issues that a brand should stand for. Then I'll share a little bit about some of the work we're doing within the climate space. And then I believe we have some questions and we can just open the conversation from there. Well, I guess I'll start 10 years ago. So Coach Foundation started in 2008, but 10 years ago, we started thinking, how do we create the most impact? You know, you've got a foundation, so we've got some dollars, but we have thousands of employees that we can activate. We have millions of followers on Instagram. How can we do good? Well, what does that look like? And so when you're trying to solve a social impact problem, you should always start with looking inwards. So for us as a brand, we said, who are we? And Coach's history was founded in 1941 by two people who had immigrated into the United States. We started in a very small loft in New York City, and we were making leather baseball gloves. And so we start, me and the board of directors, we were thinking, okay, this is our ethos. It's gritty. It's about overcoming challenges. It's about dreaming really big. And that is how Coach got to where it is today. We're the largest leather fashion company in the entire world. Most people know of Coach, but when you think about our origin story, it really is about striving and dreaming. And so we looked at data with the Gates Foundation and we said, well, what's holding back people from achieving their dreams? Let's double click what's holding back young people from achieving their dreams. We identified a very sweet spot, kind of a white space in social impact. And we said, all right, we're going to support young people age 18 to 24 in that very vulnerable and critical period in their life where they want to dream. Maybe they're still identifying their dream. We want to help them dream it real. We believe that all young people, regardless of where you come from, should have that opportunity to dream really big. What if Coach hadn't dreamed big? And so we started Dream It Real. And Dream It Real today has provided 8,000 scholarships to young people all over the world. In the beginning, we were a little bit quiet. We are not one of those brands who shouted it from the rooftops. We wanted to be authentic and we wanted to connect with the young people we were serving. And so it wasn't until probably about 2 years ago that I felt comfortable going out and talking to Forbes and being in the media and doing all those types of things because I wanted it to be very authentic. And so today, Coach has equity, I would say, in the youth space and serving young people and meeting them where they're at. But it's everything that's been by young people for young people. When we plan an event, we have the Youth Advisory Council tell us what they want, tell us what they need. When we think about scholarships, what are the barriers? What are the things that you're facing? How can we think about this differently? And so social impact is all about listening. It's all about listening to your community, to your beneficiaries you're serving, etc. And that's what Coach had to do. So that's kind of a cool example of how Coach as a brand has stood for something that's meaningful to us, and we hope very much so meaningful to young people. About 3 years ago, and after this short story, I'll stop. We can, have more of an open dialogue. Tapestry, the executives came to me and they said, you know what, we should start a foundation. And to start a nonprofit from nothing is quite a big task legally. And then you have to figure out, what do you want to support? What do you stand for? What's your mission, your vision, your theory of change, all of those things. And we knew that climate change, it's something you cannot avoid, especially in fashion. And we wanted to know, what are the most pressing global risks that the industry faces? And specifically for us, over 50% of our materials are leather. Coach is leather, Kate Spade is leather. We wanted to see, what is leather's impact on the environment? And there's a lot of opportunity in Brazil and areas similar to Brazil, where cattle ranching is prominent, because Brazil is the #1 exporter of leather. Now, I'll just caveat by saying leather is a byproduct of the meat industry. So leather is actually a very sustainable resource. At the end of the day, there's a lot of leather hides left over, and it takes companies like Tapestry to take those leather hides and make them into something sustainable and beautiful in a handbag. And so the Amazon rainforest and many really, really important biomes are at risk because of lack of policy, lack of regulation around deforestation. And when you start to look into it, it's something that we said, you know what, we do not believe in this. We do not want any leather we buy from to be associated with deforestation. This is just not something we stand for. A lot of brands ran away from Brazil. A lot of brands didn't really know what to do about it. And so Tapestry said, hey, we want to be part of the solution. And so it was my job to figure out how to invest in protecting these biomes while maintaining very sustainable ways of farming and agriculture, so that we can track and trace that no leather is coming from areas of deforestation. Very complex issue. I'm constantly talking to the beef industry. I'm constantly talking to countries all over the world. I'm constantly talking at different events saying, hey, we all have to be in this together, because when you want to do a market shift, it's very, very, very challenging. And so I've actually been working with the UN on mimicking the seafood industry. How did they become more sustainable over time? How does leather do that? Lots of questions, but that's just a different type of project that you can see where social impact is tackling. All right, this isn't fixed. There's a lot of work to do and it's really challenging, but how can businesses do something to try to make this better? So that's a day in the life. Those are very tangible examples of things that I'm trying to solve for and my team is trying to solve for daily. I do want to be very honest and open that getting in the social impact space can feel hard, because sometimes it's just a few people in a company. But if you're committed to it and if you're passionate, you can absolutely make this into a career. I came from a very small town. My parents, I was really the first to go to a university. They didn't help me with college applications. I moved to New York City and it was like this crazy thing for me to do. And I had to do all of my own networking and all of my own, all of that to make it into the New York City social impact space. And it's possible. So I hope you feel there's a little bit of relatability, in the sense that I didn't have a lot of connections, didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to create some goodness in the world. And so I'm here today as a resource and would love to just talk with you, Magdalena, about some questions or whatever the group wants to discuss.
Julia, thank you so much for that introduction. I think there's absolutely so much relatability to your story with all the Millennium Fellows who have also faced hardships in their own projects or in other things. And also, I feel that so many of us here are very interested in social impact, but also sometimes it's hard to understand that businesses can do that as well, and that it's possible to do business in a way that actually brings about social good. So thank you so much for sharing your story in terms of inspiring us of how that is actually possible. Thank you so much for that. So right now we would like to start the Q&A session. So please, any of the people who are attending here, type your questions for Julia into the chat box and we'll make sure to read them. Or if you're comfortable, please feel free to raise your hand and ask Julia directly. That would be amazing as well. So while everybody is typing their questions, I'll just start. Oh, I see that Pooja has raised her hand. Would you like to go ahead and ask your question?
Yes, hi, this is Pooja and I'm from India. So the question I had was related to the fact that, so when we talk about social impact, I'm pretty sure thinking about it on an individual level is pretty different from how corporates approach it. So how does a corporate approach to social impact vary with that of an individualistic approach?
When you say as an individual, you mean you wanting to do your own social impact project versus a company coming up with a social impact initiative? I just want to make sure I'm properly understanding you, Pooja.
Yes, so by individualistic, I mean on a personal level, if a person wants to approach social impact, I'm pretty sure it's different from how a corporate approaches it.
Exactly. Very clear. You know, I think that might be one of the most challenging parts of working in corporate social impact because Tapestry has 20,000 employees and everyone is passionate about something different, whether that's executives. And so there's within the world of supporting nonprofits, you know, there's thousands of things we can do. But what makes a corporate strategy very unique from an individual strategy is doing what's right for the brand. So understanding what are the challenges to the business and where you can capitalize on the most impact, that's where you should focus. Specifically for Coach, we could have funded so many worthy causes that I'm passionate about because of my own upbringing and my own culture, my own heritage, or our CEO, etc. But we had to say, all right, what is Coach? What's meaningful to Coach? And that was Dream It Real. So it's about looking at your business and understanding your business priorities. I also think one more thing, it's where you can, we use a credible and capable model. So if you're working on your own projects, where are you credible? Where are you capable? So for example, financial institutions, banks, they're helping people understand financial literacy. They're providing microloans for people starting businesses. They're experts in that. So that's what they should be funding, you know? So you can also think about it from that perspective. It's really interesting when you start to look at all the different things companies do support. Grocery stores supporting food insecurity, like it aligns when you see the business priorities.
Thank you so much for that, Julia. Let me see if we have any other questions. I'll just continue with my own then. So I wanted to ask a bit about your journey because like you and the work that you've done is, in your own words, a representative of combining business and doing good. So I wanted to ask you, how has this journey been like for you? And what's the one thing that you'd like to share with all the Millennium Fellows who want to also enter this space of social impact and corporate social responsibility?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, the journey is very fulfilling. I do think something that isn't talked about enough is how challenging it is. It's almost as if I'm a consultant and every day I'm hired to solve issues, but using philanthropy as that lever. So, you know, it takes some business acumen. It takes a lot of critical thinking, but it's a very satisfying journey. You said it perfectly. You're marrying doing good and you're marrying business. And in order to achieve the most impact, you have to come at it with a very strategic approach. And that's what we do. And that's really kind of the journey over the past 8 years. And the social impact sector has become a lot more defined. 10 years ago, businesses were just donating and writing checks. Today, it's a business imperative. It has to be part of the DNA of the companies. Gen Z expects it. People don't want to work at companies that aren't doing good. And by the way, companies that are socially driven have better profits typically. And so it's a smart decision to have a strategic social impact lens to your business model. It's not just a nice to have anymore.
Yeah, absolutely it is. And it's not just a marketing strategy because it's authentic, as you were saying in the beginning. So next, I'd like to actually ask you about the relationship with Gen Z, because when in this Forbes article, when we're talking about your work at the Coach Foundation, you said that your social impact strategy ties to the founding story of Coach, and it's really about your mission to uplift the next generation and create change in the world. So I wanted to ask you, what do you think has been the reason for this successful partnership between young leaders and corporations like Coach?
It's a great question, and I would hope the answer is because we listen. I talk to young people all day, every day, and it's just such a joy to speak to you all because it's been a long time since I've been in university or on camp, so I don't know. I need to learn and I need to listen and I need to hear what are challenges that you're facing. COVID was unprecedented. I know everyone says that, but this generation has faced things that no one can begin to comprehend unless you talk and you listen and you learn. And that's Coach Foundation's approach is we're learning. We're also very there's something called trust-based philanthropy. And it essentially means you really trust the nonprofits you work with. And that's the relationship we have with MCN. That's the relationship we have with our nonprofit partners is we trust them to tell us where the funding should go, where we should focus, what should we be doing. For example, about 5 years ago during COVID, one of our nonprofit partners came to us and they said, okay, the financial piece is tough. Young people are having to potentially drop out of school or work a certain job in order to get by. COVID has been really hard on their families, all of these things. And so we said, okay, scholarship makes sense. We get that. But what more do they need? And they just needed an adult to talk to. So we launched a mentor program. And today we have almost 300 of our employees are mentoring students in our scholarship program. And we've seen that really help them persist throughout their university experience because what our students were experiencing, and again, we serve 8,000. So this is just a small subset that I'm talking about. They were saying, I just need someone to call. Maybe my on-campus advisor doesn't really get me. My parents might not be the best at understanding. I'm first generation. I just need someone in the workforce who has a similar career to what I want to do to say, hey, I'm struggling and I need some help. And so we started that. So there's examples around listening. I think we have a lot more listening to do. So I accept all open feedback on our strategy or things that we can be doing to support young people. And it changes all the time. So I hope that helps, Magdalena.
Yeah, I love your approach that success in this area is really just based on listening to your audience because apparently it works. Like as a Coach Dream Real Coachtopia scholar, I must say that the program is so holistic and it's not just focused on one side of, I don't know, academics, but it's also focused on this mentorship and all of that. So we're really
Right.
building community with the other scholars, and I must say that it really works. So
I love to hear it. I love to hear it.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see that Matthew has raised his hand. Would you like to go ahead and ask your question, Matthew?
Can you? All right, thank you so much for very good presentation. I have a question. I don't know if you've mentioned that, but I just want to find out, as somebody that's passionate about social impact, do you have some metrics that you use to measure your impact or what defines your success? Yeah, I just want you to clarify that bit.
Matthew, I want to make sure I'm hearing you. You said, what are you measuring and what metrics are you using to measure your impact? Is that correct? Thumbs up. Okay. It's a good question, and you have to measure everything nowadays. It depends on the project and it depends on the grant. So, for example, with Coach Dream It Real, where we're supporting students and scholarships, we're tracking things like, are the students persisting? We're looking at, are they graduating? Are they graduating with a career aligned job? Are they getting internships? Has their debt reduced? There's things you can measure to see, is this program working? That differs very much so on the project. So for example, the work I'm doing on leather supply chains in Brazil, is deforestation decreasing in these areas? Are we able to trace more animals than before? Cattle, things like that. So it's very project specific. And it's interesting too, because now I'm starting to think about, like, how does AI help my team measure and track? And data is everything. Data driven decisions are how businesses operate and how we decide, do we fund this? Do we not fund this? Those types of things. And so my answer is it's very specific based on the project. So think about your local project you're doing, whatever community impact you're doing around your SDG. Those metrics will look very different for every single person on this call. And I encourage you to listen to your community on what metrics are important to measure. Don't collect data just for the sake of collecting data, but what data is actually going to help you make a decision to understand outcomes versus outputs. So that's my answer.
Yeah, I hope that answers Matthew's question. And those are some great insights, because I think we all kind of struggle to measure progress in our social impact project at one stage or another. So thank you so much for that. There's another question from Sierra, which is, how does Tapestry Foundation measure the real impact of its investments on communities, and what challenges do you face in ensuring long-term social value? So that's kind of connected to the previous question.
It's a really good question. Because what the Tapestry Foundation is focused on is so complex, it's going to take us 10 years to really understand if we're making a difference. And when you speak to grant makers who are at some of the biggest and best foundations, like the Ford Foundation, the Gates Foundation, the time horizon is 10 plus years. And so if you look at like World Economic Forum, they do a global risk assessment every year. What are the top risks to the global population? Climate change is always at the top. Changes in our Earth's biomes are at the top. And so I'm thinking about very high level change. So for me, it's, is deforestation decreasing, yes or no, over a course of 10 years? And have we been able to prove that? We can trace by showing geospatial mapping. Think about Google Earth, Google Maps technology in areas that are around leather production, things like that. So it's, if I've learned anything in social impact, in the beginning of my career, I was measuring way too much. Now I'm focused on 1 to 3 very, very important KPIs that I can track over time. So I hope that that's clear. And again, it's just very specific to the different outcomes that you're trying to test within your own projects as well.
All right, thank you for that. We have a heart emoji. I hope this also shows that working in fashion is not just about designing dresses, but it's about so many other things, and it spans into GIS and all of that. So thank you for that. Now I see that Thea has raised their hand. Would you like to go ahead and ask a question? Thea?
Hello, I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Firstly, I would like to thank you, Julia, for letting us, take the time out to ask you questions and taking the time out in your busy schedule to make sure that you answer them so patiently and so kindly. So thank you for that. I have to say before I move on to my question that it's so inspiring to see someone who's actually using business for good, because that's a catchy tagline nowadays, but it's really nice to see somebody actually affecting that and thinking about a few long-term goals that are difficult to achieve but possible if you put the right minds to it and the right tools towards it. So it's really inspiring for me because I want to be an impact consultant, and a lot of people in my circle have never heard of the term, or have like who they thought it was something really foreign or something really very very new, and something that is really difficult to find any opportunities in. And so seeing someone actually do something in that field and actually pioneering the field, it's so inspiring. So that's the first thing I'd like to say. And with regards to my question, it's actually more to do with how do you upskill yourself, or what are steps that we can individually take to be better impact consultants, or to be better change drivers at whatever organizations we're planning to work in going forward. So for me, if I'd want to work in like a consultancy sphere, and I wanted to focus on impact, like whether it's ESG, whether it's NGO strategy, whatever that might look like. My general curriculum, for context, I'm doing a BBA, degree in finance and international business, and most of
Okay.
my peers go ahead and do finance roles, because a lot of our curriculum is designed to give us the tools to jump into a professional setting without having to do too many things between graduating and joining the workforce. However, because these opportunities are a little more niche, what I'm trying to ask is that, is there anything that we can do to upskill or make sure that we're a good fit at corporates, because that's a little bit more niche. So that's my question. Sorry if it was a bit long-winded.
No, it's great. And Thea, it's so nice to meet you. I'll say I can relate to your story because when I was in college about 15 years ago when I heard the word corporate responsibility for the first time. Maybe it might have been longer than 15 years ago. I'm just doing fast math here. And I remember saying, I was in a marketing lecture, and I'm thinking, wait, corporate responsibility, what does this mean? And the professor was talking about how corporations can do good and have impact strategies. And I wanted so badly to do that, but I knew no one heard the term. It was so new. People thought I was crazy. And I started my career in consulting before I went to Coach Foundation. And so I know what it's like to feel like kind of the only one, but keep sticking to your passion. Your path will unfold and it'll be an amazing thing. Before I answer your question, I think it's really important just to understand my equation for success in terms of how you should think about your future. I think a lot of us have pressures from family or culture or society, whatever, to be a certain thing. Whether it's a safe career, a doctor, I don't know. Whatever that is, I believe that you will be most successful when your passion meets your purpose. And so you should think very deeply about what makes you happy. When you get up in the morning, if you were to work on a project, not being paid for it, what's something you'd want to do? If you want to solve a social challenge, or you do want to go into a heart surgery, yes, the medical field is for you, but passion and purpose is what's going to fuel your success. And if you're in a career that doesn't ladder up to that, you're not going to be the happiest and you're not going to be the most successful. And so engaged and happy employees will always be the most successful. So find that what makes you happy and stick with that. That's my advice. So you were asking about upskilling. Listen, I think having finance and international business is an amazing background. I came from business marketing and psychology, and I still was able to get into social impact. I think the international business piece is amazing. Social impact is a global field. You're going to be working with different governments all over the world, things like that. I don't think there is like a clear path, like this is the feeder into social impact. Like if you were going to be an investment banker, everyone knows you go into finance, you're an analyst, and then, the whole thing. It's just right there for you. Social impact, no, it is different. You have to kind of go through the awkwardness to make sense of it. I did get a master's in nonprofit management. I do not think you have to. I'm just letting you know that was a stepping stone for me at Columbia within the business school there. There's many different ways to break in. And also within social impact, just keep in mind, there's the internal piece and then there's the external piece. So internally, there's also like employee engagement, making people love to work where you're at. There's a lot of really cool HR stuff that comes with that. I have a team that leads all of that work, whereas mine's a little bit more on that external piece, the strategy, the global piece. And so I think having the finance and international business, and by the way, I'm managing an endowment. So if I didn't have any finance background, I would go to investment committee meetings and have no idea what they were talking about. So everything you're studying will puzzle piece together. Just stay on the course, read a lot of case studies about companies doing good. That's something I was constantly doing, and just network as much as you can.
Thank you so much. That was so inspiring. I'm also studying business as a part of my degree, so relatable as well. Now, let's take a question from Emmanuel. Emmanuel, would you like to go ahead and ask? Emmanuel, would you like to ask your question? Or is your
Sorry.
audio working?
Thank you very much. I'm from Lasso, Nigeria. I want to ask about the projects because my project is I'm focusing on SDG 16, which talks about peace, justice, and strong institution. So on the portal, I saw that some have to do video and some can be done by article or PDF, which is PowerPoint. But I did my own PowerPoint. Is it okay like that?
Magdalena, I don't know if I understood the question. If anyone on the MCN team can help me just recap Emmanuel's question. It was coming in and out for me just from my Zoom.
Yeah, Emmanuel, would you be able to repeat your question? Or if you cannot work with your audio, feel free to type your question into the chat and we'll make sure to read it for you. Okay?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
Sorry, my question is, I'm focusing on SDG 16.
Uh-huh.
So I want to ask, on my own projects, I can't do a video. Can I do an article as written to pertain to what is written, what we are saying? Do you get me?
Yes, thank you so much for your question. We will make sure that you reach out to your campus director in regards to that. But other than that, Magdalene, please go ahead, continue with the raised hands. All right? We'll reach out for your CD.
Of course, so let's take Timmy Lane's question now. Would you like to go ahead? Timmy Lane, can you hear us? Okay, it seems that your audio is not working. So again, please type your question into the chat and we'll read it for you. So let's take Gabriel's question now. Gabriel, would you like to ask a question?
Yes, can you hear me? Perfect. Yeah, thank you so much, Julia. So background, I am currently at Stanford majoring in economics and philosophy. And as I've been thinking through a lot of the social impact work, I can imagine that there are times when the business interest diverges from like the social interest. And I would be curious if there's been certain scenarios where you've experienced that and how you navigated it.
Yeah, it's a good question, Gabriel. You have to also think about the macroeconomic environment. You've got new administrations, you've got different policies. So things are constantly changing. At one point in the world, something that was very important to the corporate space doesn't seem so important after an election or some things like that. So I have been in those situations, and what has guided me is our strategy. And so when we have a preset strategy that has been approved by the board of directors, that's our North Star. And you don't waver on the strategy based on ebbs and flows within the macro environment unless it's really, really urgent. But it's my job to push the company forward for social mission aligned work. So I think many times companies that kind of sway, it's because they don't have like a 10-year strategy. And that will always hurt them, because in short term, 2 years is nothing in business. 5 years is nothing. You got to be thinking longer. And so it's really, really, really important to think that. Also, you can work with consultants that can come in and help you make that business case to your leadership team. That's something I've leaned into as well, that has been beneficial.
Thank you. That's so inspiring to hear about the power of strategy in facing political challenges. Thank you so much for that. Let's take Enoch's question now. Enoch, would you be able to unmute and ask your question? Enoch, can you hear us? Okay, it seems your audio is not working, but feel free to type the question into the chat. Now, Catherine, would you be able to ask your question? Catherine? Okay, let's take Muhammad's question then. Muhammad, would you like to ask?
Yes, thank you very much. Actually, myself, I'm Al Iqbal, and I'm from Pakistan. And currently, I'm pursuing my degree in international relations. So, I want to ask that I'm interested in to pursue my career in as a management training officer. So, I wanted guidance from her that how can I pursue in that career, and is there any opportunities for those who are interested in corporate and in management training? So, that's just my question. Thank you.
So you're interested if there are opportunities within corporate and management training as it ties to international relations? Is that how I'm understanding it, Muhammad?
Yeah, that's the question. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's definitely a lot of different resources out there. And so, something that I did when I was at university is I would go to my career office and I would say, what are some resources? If you know that you want to get into management at a corporation, what are some things that you can do to get there? Maybe there's a mentor, things of that sort. I think definitely having a background in international relations will be very compelling for you to have a corporate management role one day. Most corporations have some sort of government relations department. Ours sits in the legal department. It's very formative for business. If you think about doing business on a global scale, as you all know, policies, laws, they change, and you have to have someone who's really in that international relations space that knows what's happening around the world to advise your business to make the best decision. So I do see a lot of opportunity for you, and I'd encourage you to get some resources on your college campus.
Right, thank you so much for that. We have another question from, apologies if I'm mispronouncing your name, Faisal, who is a Millennium Fellow from Independent University in Bangladesh and the founder of Blood Bridge, which is an AI-powered health tech platform that connects blood donors and recipients using location-based technology under SDG 3. And they started with a nonprofit vision, but soon realized that sustainability required a business-driven approach. So, from your journey with Tapestry, what were the toughest or most unexpected challenges you faced while turning a social impact idea into a sustainable company? And how did you turn the impossible into the possible?
I don't think I have, to be very true. I have not turned the impossible into the possible yet. It's hard to turn an idea, which is so exciting, and you feel like you could change the world, into something that's, in this iteration of how we're defining sustainable, means long lasting. It can live on its own. It can really take off. That's very, very, very difficult to do. And it's actually a little bit different than what I do on a day-to-day basis. I think understanding your beneficiaries, and in my perspective, sometimes our customers, who are you serving and what do they expect from this idea or this product, has to be central to everything that you do. Why does the idea exist? Why does the business venture exist? What is its purpose in the world? Why is it needed? And is it going to be needed in 10 years? And how is it different from your competitors? So a landscape analysis, who else is doing what, why and how are you different? The power of convening. A lot of times nonprofits and for-profits are all doing the same thing. you are more powerful when you come together. So can you think about mergers of ideas? Maybe a different nonprofit has a slightly different iteration of your idea that can take it to the next level, what have you. I'm constantly encouraging nonprofits and social driven ideas and businesses to come together to build something complementary versus all of you ask for funding individually. So connecting, these are just some initial thoughts, connecting with others, and really thinking about, you know, who you're serving and the expectation of your product is really important.
Thank you so much for that. That is so inspiring and so helpful to, I'm sure, many of us here. Now, unfortunately, due to time constraints, we will not be able to take any more questions. But Julia, would you like to say any closing remarks?
I just want to say thank you for having me and the opportunity to meet you all. It's it's a really cool place to be where you're at right now. You have the world in front of you. You can do anything, truly. And so just stay curious. Keep learning. You will change the world. And I think a little bit of strategy goes a very long way. Use resources that you have available that I didn't, AI, etc., to really build that future that you want. I think there's so much beauty in the tools that you have in front of you. So all that being said, don't forget what I what I mentioned about doing something you're passionate about, because you will spend a lot of time working, and working can be something beautiful that brings you a lot of fulfillment and you can change the world. And it's best just to make sure that you're choosing and spending your time with something that you're passionate about and that you love, and that will provide opportunity for you and your family. So feel free to reach out to me. You can add me on LinkedIn. Happy to connect with all of you all. And if you have any ideas about how Coach can better support young people, please, I'm always open ears. So thank you for your time. It was such a pleasure meeting all of you.
And it's been such a pleasure meeting you, Julia. Thank you. Thank you for coming today. You're such an inspiring and grounded person. It was such a pleasure talking about business and strategy and how it can actually help us do good in the world. So thank you so much. And also to all the other Millennium Fellows, make sure to attend the other global webinars that are upcoming this week and in the following few weeks. And thank you so much for this webinar, and hopefully see you soon in another one.
Yes, thank you for whatever time it is in the world, wherever you're at. I know it's late, so thank you for joining. Bye-bye. Bye.